But the question is, should socialists be present there?
And Stranger Things has been renewed for a fourth series by Netflix. The third season of the sci-fi horror, which stars Millie Bobby Brown, was released earlier this year. The streaming service has also signed the show's creators, the Duffer Brothers, to a multi-year film and series deal. That's it for now. More in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA, you can find our lowest car insurance price online, guaranteed.
Rain continuing over much of the north and east with a risk of some localised flooding. Dry across Munster with scattered showers. Lows of 8 to 11 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Dan McDonnell back with us. Manchester United 1-0 up against Arsenal, 47 minutes in the clock. McTominay with the goal. We just saw another replay of it there, Dan. Took even more of a deflection than I'd fully realised. A very, 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 very helpful deflection. It was still a reasonable strike, but was probably going more central in the goals.
Flight-altering direction.
Yeah.
So enough to be a significant factor in the goal, rather than just maybe taking a bit of the aesthetic pleasure away from it.
Roy Keane doing punditry. Wouldn't have given a deep tactical breakdown of things there just watching. That may not be his style as pundit, but he did certainly say that the quality on show, frightening. Not in a good way.
Not in a good sense, yeah. You know how people now sometimes use words that might have a negative connotations, but it's actually positive?
I do, yeah.
You know, this whole thing of something being sick, it's like, what? Sick? It's like, but unwell? It's like, no, that's really good. It's like, I have to get my head around this. So frightening in a bad sense now. This has gone the opposite direction. But yeah, well, that's it. Like, it's mainly like an Arsenal game. I don't really feel that engaged by it. I mean, what's at stake here? It's a battle for a top 4 place, you know, maybe later in the season or something like that. You know, it's not. You don't feel like this is a game that's it's going to change the flow or the pattern of the season in any way.
No.
So, I mean, well, like we'll see where they both are in March. Probably around a similar place in the table.
Dan McDonnell's official response to this evening is, meh.
Well, that's not quite my official response to the evening as a whole. So we know the things going on in the world, Joe.
Sure. Pat Nevin's watching this game. He'll give us his thoughts on it.
He'll tell us what's happening.
We're juggling a few things, and I know you've used some of the last hour to file for tomorrow's Irish Independent, where presumably the John Delaney story trickles on. It feels like it will go quiet-ish now until Monday. Shane Ross has been out. Fergus O'Dowd's been out. All the usual people have said, well, maybe the terms of his agreement with the FAI should have been made public. You suspect they will be in November at the latest when these accounts are published. Is that what reviews, whatever?
Yeah. Well, the accounts. Sorry, the reviews are ongoing. Yeah, the accounts are presented in November. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So you're right. Like they're almost interlinked.
Sure.
The two things at this stage, you know.
But beyond that, not much will happen. So the first report due of several is Monday 7th of October. That's the one commissioned by Sport Ireland, carried out by the accountancy firm Cozy based in Uri. Other reports include Mazars, which will give maybe a broader sense of the structural problems around the organisation. That's one commissioned by the FAI themselves. Grant Thornton are hanging around as well. I'm not quite sure who's commissioned that one. And then also the Office of the Director for Corporate Enforcement. I'm not actually sure if they publish a report.
Oh, no, that's a different one. That's almost separate to everything. That's an investigation that could take years. I think Grant Thornton is sort of feeding into Mazars a bit. I think it's basically the COSI one, Mazars, and then ODC is almost separate to them all. And the ODC one isn't really going to be affected. Like the other ones are sort of commissioned within sport. You know, and it's Sport Ireland and the FAI and various, you know, it's the implications are sporting, I guess, you know, and the running operations of the football body, whereas the ODC one, I mean, it has all sorts of potential. I mean, you know, it could end up in the criminal realm.
What is the difference between the Mazars report and the Grant Thornton report?
I think that the Grant Thornton report was specifically, and I think Grant Thornton initially were providing guidance specifically around the €100,000 transaction, as far as I know.
They were innocent days when it was just the €100,000
But they were there for a while as well, so I mean that could very possibly be wrong.
And it may well have expanded now.
Yeah, the division between I can't remember who came first, you know, it's like the worst pub table quiz of all time. List these FAI reviews in order of chronology. Like, which came first? You know, was it Mazzar's? Was it Grant Thornton? Was it UEFA? Cozy was down the list. That'd be down towards the bottom.
Cozy's new. Cozy is Sport Ireland. Once the Oireachtas thing happened and Sport Ireland realised that this thing was becoming a fiasco, then they said, right, we need to go in here and have our own report done. We actually don't trust the FAI anymore to do their report, even if it is independently commissioned.
Yeah, and there was another review into the cyber hacking as well, that was a separate review, which was wrapped up at some point.
In another year, the Russian hacking thing would be bigger than anything.
The Russians, you say?
Have I got that wrong?
Well, no, there was a cyber hacking attempt. I don't think it's ever been clarified that it was Russians, Joe.
Did I just dream that up?
I think you possibly did.
Okay.
Either that, you're after breaking a really big story.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. No, scratch that.
The Russians.
No.
The Russians hacked it when? Who's involved in this?
Have I dreamt that up totally?
Like, is Andrei Arshavin involved in this?
Shevchenko, I think as well, yeah.
Shevchenko is Ukrainian.
I know.
See, this is...
Well, not for long. No, I think I'm all over the shop there. Don't mind that. Where have I dreamt that from?
Well, I mean, maybe...
No.
I'm thinking CNN, Joe. You know? Why would you make some... Why would American politics... Well, actually, there's a John Delaney standing for election in America at the moment, which actually makes searching John Delaney's name on Twitter a very complicated business, because you want to look at like an update of what's happening with John Delaney, and what you end up getting is something from the caucuses in Iowa. You know, it's completely distracting. Then sometimes you can't tell between the two because someone's having a go at them in a particular way. It's like, is this about John Delaney?
Can we believe anything John Delaney's saying?
You're looking at this going, well...
I'm talking about the US John Delaney.
Exactly, who are you talking about?
The US one.
Yeah, but the Russians, as far as I'm aware, not involved.
Okay, scratch that then. I don't know where the hell I dreamt that up.
If they are, let us know.
So, just to deal with this for the end of the
we're sort of being flippant, you know, in what is actually a horrendous story.
Well, let me say, for people just tuning in, if you think we're being a bit flippant about this, we've already talked about it for about 20 minutes at 7:30. It was the main story. Dan's gone through everything there in a good bit of detail, where we are, how we got there. Podcast listeners, I appreciate you've already just heard that, so we're not going to repeat it ad nauseum. Is there anything else you want to add to the 7:30 chat?
Not especially. I mean, I guess a point that should be made, and like what needs to happen going forward, is like we've had this situation where the identity of the FAI has been wrapped in with, like, if I said to you FAI, right, you know, what does the FAI stand, or what do you think of when you think of the FAI? I think a lot of people would have an image of like John Delaney and the board and a certain perception that I think, like, there are people, and we've touched on it earlier, there's a lot of good people working in the FAI who, like, during the past year at various times, I know, because I've spoken to them, were like afraid of being seen out in their FAI tracksuit. You know, they were afraid, like people who were sort of working in development and coaching and, you know, being a positive force for the game, felt ashamed of their association with the FAI, and like how that can happen, and how that just can't be allowed to happen again. And I know that's a bit of a preachy sort of Jerry's final thought thing there or something, you know, but there is that element of what a sad story this ultimately is, and there's a great intrigue and almost fascination with some of the details, and it's like, and there was that element of shock factor of like what's coming next, and oh, look at the largesse here and the spending here, and what about the Ritz-Carlton, and what about everything. But like behind it all is like a wasted decade. Yeah. Maybe a wasted decade and a half, but particularly a wasted decade. And it's just something that, and I'm trying to do a piece about it tomorrow, that like there's a lot of established, like it's not just all solved because John Delaney, say, moves out of stage left here. He exits stage left. Like the football administration in the country, full stop. There's a lot of people who've been around for a long time in particular roles, and like there's been an element of like ownership over positions, you know, like the game doesn't belong to anyone, you know, like there's, and you hope that the changes going forward, where, you know, reforms of term limits and stuff, that there's a constant refreshing of ideas and people, because you can't just imagine that football is like certain people and that's their gig and that's their brief and that's their administration. There has to be more open forum for ideas going forward, and you hope that's going to happen, but there's still a lot of people there, not a million miles away, to seats of power and influence, that are very much a product of the whole old regime. And that's just something that you have to bear in mind, that it doesn't just stop here because one change has happened, much as that was a badly needed change.
The word seems to be that Donald Conway is attacking the new job with a bit of vigour and good intent, and yet the Minister for Sport, amongst others, has said you're just too connected with the past to stay on here. Your position's not tenable because of that. And he's refused to go and said he's staying on for a year to oversee the transition to a new dawn. What do we understand about the work Conway is doing now? And is his position seen as tenable within the FAI? Is there disgruntlement that he is staying on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a talking point in the coming weeks, as much, like he did say previously that, he didn't feel there was anything coming out in the particular, reviews that was going to pose him particular problems. But I mean, that could be very individualised in the sense of, and then Donald Conway. But the fact that he was part of a board during this period, it is the issue that probably won't go away from him.
And I think publicly it doesn't help his case, whether this is fair or not, but it doesn't help his case that on the day of the Oireachtas hearing, which effectively was a nail in the coffin, I think, from a public point of view on this whole thing.
That was the day it really turned.
That was when I realised, actually, they're not surviving this. That was the first day I thought.
Some people thought differently at the time. They actually thought it had gone quite well.
No. I think
extraordinary.
I think actually under the circumstances, Donald Conway performed very well, because John Delaney said, I can't say nothing. I'd love to help you out, but I mean, I've got my legal advice, so I'm just going to sit here. I can answer any questions not to do with my 14 years as CEO, though. So ask away. And Conway was left to pick up a disaster, really. And the treasurer not knowing how many bank accounts they had, and it was a fiasco. I think under the circumstances, he performed quite well that day, but. Yes. In the public's eye, he was sat there alongside John Delaney. He was very much helping John Delaney out here by answering questions that he wouldn't answer and doing the dirty work in some respects is how it was seen. So for that reason, I think in the public's eye, whether it's fair or not, he's just too associated with the Delaney era.
Yeah, I mean, around that time there was the European Under-17 draw in the Aviva where the FAI were hosts, but John Delaney was actually the UEFA speaker, and I think there was some sort of gushing praise of him from Conway introducing him. And obviously, listen, that would have been speech written stuff, that happens, but that plants the perception. And I know a lot of people who would be critical of the FAI who would, and would have been very unhappy, and they might be inside the FAI structure now, who would tell you, they'll say, he's done well, like he's worked hard, he's thrown his life and he's thrown his energies into it. Okay. In such a way, though, it's like, well, where was that for the last 10 to 12 years? And this is the problem. Maybe life isn't fair sometimes in that respect, but I keep making this point. There's a lot of people in the last 10, 12 years who've left the FAI in a bad way, whose job it was, who lost job or redundancies, or they were sort of cut out of this inverted commas football family that supposedly existed. And people who were there all the time through that, you're not suggesting that they were, that they are bad people in any way, but they were part of that environment that existed. So yes, there's a sense of maybe trying to atone in some way, and you can laud that and say, well, well done for your service at this point, but it's still an obstacle to Donald Conway continuing.
Like a more cynical view of that could be he's just trying to change his own legacy, change his own reputation.
And I think that is a point of view that I don't think he could take issue with someone holding that opinion, given that you can run through a list of statements and stuff where he would have been privy to and quoted in, and being the president of the FAI is an honour. There's good things that come with that.
And it's still his intention to go in a year, though, isn't it?
No, it is. And again, there's a talking point over whether he will see out that year. I still don't think it's far from. Okay. I would say that's far from assured. We'll see what happens over the next couple of months. That there may be a call if there's a new board structure coming in. Do you do the handover a bit earlier? Because once you've done the transition for the various reviews and they're completed, what function is the handover person playing? Because he is staying because it was a recommendation of a governance review report that there should be up to two stay. So they're acting upon that. That's the reason that's been given. But is there a point where actually that work ceases? And I think that's probably the way the things will play out.
And there are going to be 4 new independent members of the board. Is that right?
Independent directors coming soon. Yeah.
When does that happen?
At one point, it was been spoken about for the games in September, which hasn't happened. I understand a lot of people applied because there was like an independent firm who basically ran an advertisement in a couple of newspapers to seek independent candidates, and quite a few people applied.
Did you?
I did not do so. No. Did you?
No.
There you go. Why would I apply?
Would you not be well qualified to do it?
No, I wouldn't have thought. I think it could be slightly compromised to some degree.
Okay. Well, you'd have to give up your job at the Irish Independent.
Yeah, to be an independent director for what, you know? I mean...
The privilege of being part of the football family.
Yeah, you need to make a living, Joe, you know? But you would hope that it's people... you'd hope that it's people from a particular environment that actually... I mean, we're only joking there, but like that it's someone... I don't want it to have opinions from these people before they start. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, this person here, well, actually, they're an ally of them, or they were linked to this and they were linked to that. Now, there could be some excellent people in that bracket.
That's hung over Noel Mooney, for instance, that he's allied to the previous regime. Would you like people to go to the board who are more football people or are more business people and come from good corporate environments?
I think you can do a bit of both, can't you? With 4. I mean, there's an argument that it should have been 6.
That was Noel Quinn's issue,
Noel Quinn has made that point, and I don't think Quinn himself has gone for it. And I think there's people like who've played football at a good level. Like this is one of these things. Like there's people who've played football at a high level that are doing very well in business and other worlds. Don't necessarily all have to have worked in football as chairman or chief executives or managers. There's a lot of people who would have played football here who would probably be aware of the lie of the land here, who would be qualified in sort of high-powered professions or have worked running their own businesses and stuff like that. So I think having someone with a football connection is not a bad thing, I guess. To slightly contradict myself, but I think you could have 1 or 2 people there who have a very different focus, who don't have a stake in the game, who might have done something in whether other sports or a completely other field. I can see it's about having a bit of a balance, and I think that's what was lacking on the board before, was a real balance in terms of skill sets. It was very hard to see what distinguished one person from the next.
Well, there was a power imbalance too. We'll take a short break. So that's FAI chat done. Dan was in from 7:30. If you want to catch the podcast, if you've just tuned after 9 and wanted to get your fill on what happened over the weekend between John Delaney and the FAI, I should update you on events at Old Trafford. So Aubameyang scored. He was played in and De Gea came out, and in a very nice way he just dinked the ball over De Gea, who went to ground with his left foot. Really nice finish, Aubameyang. And instantly the linesman's flag went up to say offside. So good job Aubameyang played out the move where the ref didn't blow his whistle, because then they looked at it on VAR, and as the pass was played through to Aubameyang, you're watching the finish here, it's a really nice finish. As the ball was played through to Aubameyang, right in front of the linesman, like it's extraordinary actually, right in front of Aubameyang, or in front of the linesman, Harry Maguire sprinted up. He was he was miles behind everyone. He must have been caught making a tackle or doing something, so he tried to sprint up to get in touch with the line, and the linesman seemed to misjudge when Maguire actually reached the line. So he had his flag up, and then they went to VAR, and the goal was given. So it was a perfectly good example of a legitimate goal being given. Now I need to watch it again. Solskjaer's given out over something. I'm not sure, is it the goal or is it something else?
I don't know, is there a suggestion that people stopped in any way? I don't know, is that I mean, they seemed, the Manchester United players, from seeing it, seemed reasonably committed to finishing out the phase of play.
They were.
But I'm wondering, I mean, I think it's a type of decision that I think people are going to rage over anyway, because they're still just getting used to this adjustment, to some degree.
But it looked right to me, I mean, when you see it again and you see how much Maguire played Aubameyang onside, it's a no-brainer decision. Effort from Pogba just wide. Really good effort. Tried to curl it in the right-hand post. So still 1-0, 64 minutes on the clock. We'll take a short break. Pat Nevin will join us. He's been watching this game. We'll get his thoughts and then ask him about the weekend's football as well.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen.
International football is more exciting than ever.
Remember that first time on the terraces, where it all began. The heroes, the villains, the highs, the lows. All the while, you were learning. Now use that knowledge on Football Index. Join tens of thousands of fans trading the world's top players. Football Index, the game changed. App available. 18 plus, terms and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
This is Brian. Brian has just managed to break his business into a number of new markets.
Whoa!
How? By getting his company an internationally recognized certification in quality standards, giving Brian a much greater advantage over his competitors.
Yes!
Lucky Brian. Find out how you too can get your business on the road to greater success with an internationally recognized seal of approval by visiting nsai.ie today.
Fly with Cathay Pacific from Dublin Airport to over 70 destinations across Asia and Australia and move beyond the familiar. State-of-the-art cabins, world-class entertainment and award-winning service, making sure you arrive ready to make the most of whatever lies ahead. Whether it's the stunning coastline of Sydney, the secluded waterfalls of Bali, or the bustling markets of Ho Chi Minh City. Book now at cathaypacific.com. Cathay Pacific. Move beyond.
Are you fed up with diets that only give you short-term results? Do you want to lose weight and keep it off for good? Is it time for a different approach to losing weight? Motivation Weight Management Clinic's scientific approach will help you to change your whole relationship with food so you can lose weight and maintain it for life. See motivation.ie to book your private one-to-one consultation. Motivation. It's not just what you eat, it's why.
Tuesday, October 8th, the Republic of Ireland take on Ukraine in a huge Women's Euro 2021 qualifier. In partnership with 20x20, we're asking you to help the team and make history by setting a new attendance record in Tallaght Stadium. Kick-off is 7:30pm and tickets are just €5, while under-16s go free. Show your stripes for the girls in green and new manager Vera Pau in her first match at Tallaght Stadium. Tickets on sale now at fai.ie/tickets. Booking fee applies.
Mullen Lighting have had more than their fair share of lightbulb moments. And as manufacturers of bespoke lighting, the decision to move into the Eurozone was one of their most important. As was partnering with Enterprise Ireland. A comprehensive 5-step plan and extensive supports helped make France one of their most successful markets. As Brexit approaches, take the step into new markets with Enterprise Ireland. Visit globalambition.ie/steps. If you have the ambition, we'll help you take it global. An initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Have a great evening with itsforwomen.ie. Don't live your life on hold. Get a quote now at itsforwomen.ie and see why we're trusted by over 130,000 women in Ireland.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. So let's go to Pat Nevin, who's been watching this top of the table. Scratch that mid-table clash. Oh, Pat, you see what I did there? It's not fair. The last 10 years have not been kind. How you doing?
I'm great. Well, I was great, and then I watched most of that first half, and then I was less great.
Well, how bad?
You know, the weirdest thing about it is it was just the paucity of the passing, the bad decision making. It was just a mess. I've rarely seen that many mistakes in a Premier League game in a row. And it didn't seem as if anybody was playing particularly well. Now, I know it's raining and I know there's all those sort of things going on, but come on, really? It was really, really poor. Until we got a Scotsman, obviously, who stands up and puts a little bit of quality in there.
We were crying out for a Scotsman. We were just saying that here 10 minutes in.
Funnily enough, I've never seen McTominay do that one before. It's really odd. Like, McTominay does well in centre midfield for Man United, and McGinn does brilliantly for Aston Villa, and then they turn up for Scotland and then nothing happens. So
yeah, Tierney and Robertson as well. Like, Scotland have a really good crop of elite players at the moment, and then the national team, I don't know, Pat, like, sum up the national team in a sentence without being unkind.
Without being unkind, one sentence: no centre backs, no strikers. That's it.
That's pretty matter of fact.
At least he worked in nay.
Well, you asked the Scottish question.
Yeah, good. And have things picked up dramatically, or give or take?
Are we talking about Man United again here?
Yes, we are.
Not Scotland.
Definitely not Scotland.
Please get off Scotland quickly. I'll start talking about rugby next.
Yeah.
No, actually, in actual fact, it's got a little bit better in that second half. Obviously, that goal's lifted it. And you know what it's like in these games. You get a goal, it opens it out a little bit. And good old VAR, got it right. Saved our bacon on this occasion. So There's been a lot of moaning about it recently, and I understand that, I get it, but it would still be 1-0 just now, and it shouldn't be. It should be 1-1. Another well-taken goal, and that I don't even think that's a particularly good scoreline for either team, is it? 1-1. They need better than that.
Not especially, no. We were just here.
Can I ask you about one question?
Yeah, go on.
Have you been watching this as well?
Well, I was just about to say we're half watching here because we're trying to talk through the ongoing issues within the Football Association of Ireland, which, trust me, are nae good.
Yeah, because it makes Brexit sound easy.
It's akin to Brexit.
It actually is. It's our Brexit.
It's our Brexit. Yeah.
We are also involved in Brexit, to be fair. But anyway,
neither will end well. Yeah. But looking here, we were chatting, and I just happened to look over. I saw the goal, and then I saw the offside, and I continued chatting to Dan, and I thought, well, I'll update the listeners on this in a few minutes' time. And then I saw the replay, and it looked to my eye as I was listening to Dan explain potentially legally tricky issues, but it looked like Maguire had played him well onside, and this was right in front of the linesman.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, good 3 yards onside, but it's that classic one when you show it in the telly and you freeze frame it, or else you show it in slow motion. It looks as if it's a disastrous mistake by the assistant referee. In actual fact, even you go to these conferences with the refs and the assistant linesmen have assistant referees talk, that's the tricky ones. Somebody who sprints right in front of your eye line while you're watching something further away. Now, we've got a panoramic view and we've got freezes and all the rest of it, but if something happens right in front of your eye line, a guy runs in front of you 2 yards away from you or 5 yards away from you, but you're watching the ball that's like 60 yards away from you, it's almost impossible for the human brain to calculate it. And it's classically one of those ones that everybody up in the stand is in a better position than the assistant referee to see it. And that is why we've got VAR, and I'm delighted we got it that time. So it looked bad, but to be honest, from his point of view, do you know the one that I keep on going on about, Sean Massey Lloyd, is it? The female assistant referee, she never gets them wrong. It's just because she's got like a third eye, I've watched her time and time again. She's absolutely brilliant at it. So, but the others, quite often that's the ones that get wrong.
Interesting. That explains it, because on TV it looks like such a blatant mistake, but clearly that linesman is of a certain calibre if he's reffing Manchester United Arsenal.
Yeah. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. I remember I've read up a bit about it, and there was some reports done. I think it was Plus One, one of the science magazines had done it, and they basically said they cannot see it. They just have to gauge it. They have to gauge where people roughly were, because your eyes basically don't go two directions at one time. So you can't actually see it. You need to figure it out and let your brain work it out. So he couldn't see that one when it happened because of the angles that the players were at. So understandable, and that's exactly the reason why we have the VAR. And I don't think it was, I wasn't shouting and bawling and annoyed with him, but it just looks worse from our position.
So not the most important issue of the weekend, but what is the etiquette with Calvert-Lewin stealing our Seamus Coleman's goal at the weekend?
Right.
Does everyone in the dressing room turn around to him and say, yeah, we know you're a striker, that only gets you so much licence, that only buys you so much greed?
Do you know strikers, they've just got a complete get out of jail card with that one. 100%. Anybody else does it and you get the dirty looks to some degree. But in actual fact, in reality, he did the right thing. Hate to say it for Seamus, but he did the right thing. Do you know, if you're a nice guy and you let the ball go in and well done, you let him get the goal. 1 time out of 100, somebody clears it off the line on your blind side when you didn't think it was going to happen. That thing that you get that wrong is the reason why 99 times you just put it in the net. You just constantly do it, and he's right to do it. He needed a bit about himself as well, Calvert-Lewin. He was just about too nice the last couple of seasons, and this season you're not seeing that. He's really moved on a bit. And even though Seamus, did you see the close-ups of him? He looked furious.
I couldn't work out what he said. My lip reading wasn't quite good enough.
I couldn't catch it either. See, Seamus Coleman is a sort of a guy who's like, he is a model professional. He doesn't meet that. It's not as if he's like griping about his goal bonus. Although I would look for some of the goal bonus if I was Seamus Coleman. But I don't think he's going to be concerned about that issue, But I'd love to know what the... it's only those occasions where someone risks an offside to do it, where it becomes a bit of a problem. Which does happen.
It didn't look like he was saying, "Well done on doing the professional thing." No, it didn't look that way.
In that moment, it would probably be a bit miffed. But when he sits back and realises, and by the way, there's no way Seamus Coleman's got a goal bonus in his contract. No chance.
But
that does not happen.
Well, Calvert-Lewin probably does. So maybe they were cutting a deal. You know, this is the thing. But
absolutely. Do you know, one of the things when I was my executive role that I did, nobody gets goal bonuses. Absolutely nobody gets them. There was a concept that I might give assist bonuses, but no, nothing like that. Because in the end, you should be doing what's right for the team all the time. So it's a classic one. If you're throwing a goal and there's a 70% chance of you scoring, but if you pass it to your mate, there's a 90%, you'll always do the right thing, unless you're on a goal bonus and you take that chance. You shouldn't do it. So it's one of those things. I don't think goal bonuses should be a thing anymore. I mean, let's be fair. They don't need the extra few quid, do they?
Are they still pretty prevalent, goal bonuses at the top level?
You don't hear much about them. It's not. I'm sure there's one or two around, but I'm not convinced it's a big thing. There's one or two players you just think, because that's all they can do, like Batshuayi down at Chelsea. I mean, just give him a goal bonus. That's fine, because that's all he does anyway. It doesn't matter whether anybody's in a different position. He just gets the ball and kicks the ball towards goal. That's all he does. Kind of works for him right enough, but it's kind of, I would never have it. It breeds animosity in a team, and it's not a good thing. And I still think Calvert-Lewin did the right thing.
As for Everton generally, are they living up to your pre-season tag of being the great entertainers that you were hoping for?
Not as much as I hoped it would be. They've been okay, they've been all right, but it's not quite there yet. And the big one is Keane's still not done it yet, and Calvert-Lewin's getting more headlines than Moise Keane's getting, and I'm getting quite frustrated. But I mean, he's just new in the scene. He's just turned up. He's a kid, all that sort of stuff. Still not concerned about him. And remember, he's not much different in age than someone like Tammy Abraham. So we always give him a little bit of leeway, and others at that age a bit of leeway. And even though Keane, because he's bulked up and he's muscular and he doesn't look young, he is very young. So give him a bit of leeway, but I still think there's enough quality there for them to be, well up there. And if they get a good run together, there's no reason why they couldn't do top six. And I think they gave Man City a right good game. I mean, Pep certainly looked a bit miffed afterwards with the amount of opportunities that Everton got in that game. Having said that, the right team won without a shadow of a doubt, and they looked a bit special when they've turned it on. I've seen them a couple of times this season when they've really fancied it, and they're stunning. Yeah.
The highlights, I only saw the highlights, but they certainly suggested that Riyad Mahrez in particular was enjoying life out there.
Yeah, it's a very, very odd one though, because De Bruyne will start, that Sterling will start, but Sterling is a wee bit like, Mahrez is coming in. Mahrez is getting far more skill than Sterling has. He's got all those extra things that Sterling hasn't got, but he's that kind of willingness to put yourself out for the team all the time is the one thing they clearly had missing for certain periods of time. And he is when you stand beside Riyad Mahrez, I don't know if you stood beside him before, when you stand beside most professional footballers, they've got, they're mostly big and muscular and bulky these days and really built. And you stand beside Mahrez and you think, I could break him. He still looks really skinny. He still doesn't look like that type at all. And when he goes in for tackles, a lot of the time they are either half-hearted or he just doesn't want to know. It was a wee bit more himself, but you don't need to be a battler. You just need to be neat and nippy. Again, there's lots of players in the league who they're wiry, and you use that wiriness, and that's the thing that Mahrez didn't want to do for quite a long time. He's going to have to do that. Everybody knows he's going to have to do that if you're going to get a game every week under Pep.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Liverpool benefited from a goalkeeping mistake, and Jurgen Klopp said if the game had finished 0-0, he would have had no qualms whatsoever. It would have been a fair result. One of the things I want to ask you about here, the game was the game, and then they got the bit of luck that you need sometimes, and they keep their run going. So they've won their first 7 games only for the second time. 1990 to 91 was the last time they managed to do that. A lot of people now are observing that Joel Matip and his run out from defence is proving very effective, and it's almost a ritual in every game. They look forward to it when he just eyes up the gap and takes the opportunity to go and take it as far as he can and gets pretty close to goal and often draws a man and gets things moving. People likening it to Alan Hansen, for instance, a more clunky version of Alan Hansen maybe. But it is a thing that I'm sure you saw Alan Hansen do it, and you can talk about that as well. It'd be interesting. But it is a thing. Like anytime a defender does it, it completely changes the dynamics of the pitch. It draws a man. Suddenly, everything changes if you have a defender who can do that. We don't see it that often.
You don't see that often, and it's a real shame. There are certain players that have done it over the years and done it brilliantly. I can remember Ricardo Carvalho used to be brilliant at that until Mourinho got hold of him and told him not to stand over a halfway line or he's going to sub him, which was a real shame. But there have been lots and lots of players, as you say. Hansen famously was good at it. You talk about Matip. I watched Van Dijk doing it week after week up at Celtic, and it was astonishing. And he didn't just go and go 10, 15, 20 yards forward. He went an amazing dribble down the right or the left-hand wing, and then he would go and play a brilliant through ball or hit a ball from 40 yards out. It would hit the crossbar. So Matip's good at it, or getting better at it. And you're right, it changes the dynamic of the play because you're set up to mark your man in that midfield. And then suddenly there's this complete interloper in the middle of it. And it just drags everyone. It's the classic one, to use the football terminology, which bores me senseless usually, you got to break the lines. When you break the lines, it causes confusion. That's why you get Mahrez, that's why you get De Bruyne, or these people go beyond people, break a line, and then suddenly you get confusion. That doesn't matter what line it is. If you're Matip or if you're Van Dijk and you break that line, it confuses the life out of everyone. It shouldn't really, because when Matip goes there, then Henderson or Milner or Wijnaldum, they should be dropping back in his position. That's exactly what's happened, should happen. Because either that or one of your fullbacks should tuck round. Ain't going to happen with Liverpool because they don't do that. Or else you've got Van Dijk has to take care of everything in himself. So if one of the midfielders drops back, then it shouldn't really be a big problem for the midfielders in the opposition. But it is, and it confuses the life out of them. So yeah, it works well.
Yeah, Harry Maguire started doing it a little bit once or twice, and he was, you referenced Rio Ferdinand used to do it a lot for United. I kind of wonder, is it the next big thing that we'll see managers pushing players to do more, because sometimes the game is just so static. And what's the big fear of a defender? I'm going to lose the ball and suddenly we're in big trouble.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember Stones did it quite a lot a couple of seasons ago? He was driving it in the midfield quite a bit, and they would was it Fernandinho would sit in beside him and just let him go. But you need to be good enough on the ball. You need to have the vision. You've got everything in front of you. And it's a brilliant position to have the ball running at people who don't want to engage with you because you're not their man. And also you can see 180 ahead of you and see everything that's going on. But you also have the vision to pick something else out when you get there. Now, Matip's pick-outs, they seem to me, to be honest, mostly to feet into strikers or wide players. He's not clipping balls over the top, beautifully a la De Bruyne to get somebody running in. He's not doing that yet. But, that might actually come. Who are the players that are going to do that? That's more of the question you're going to ask. Who are the players going to step into that sort of area? Well, we know there's one guy on the pitch tonight who's not bad at doing that, Mr. Luiz, but he's not going to be the future of anything after a couple of years. So who's it going to be? I have absolute confidence there are going to be a few of them, because see the English players that are coming through just now, that come through that academy system, and particularly get through in England, they are so comfortable with the ball at their feet. I have absolutely no doubt that there's going to be 2 or 3 coming through very, very soon.
Yeah, was Hansen a rarity?
Oh, at the time, yeah. I mean, you talk nowadays. You talk about the gegen press and the high pressure squeeze and all that sort of stuff, right? That's not new. What that is what everybody used to do, which was let the centre backs get the ball, then squeeze them, because they're garbage, right? They can't kick a ball. They can't play football, with a very, very few exceptions, and one of them being Mr. Hansen himself, and he was just so comfortable on the ball, so relaxed on the ball, and he always seemed to have so much time on the ball, and he wasn't even particularly quick. He was good at it, but not again playing 70-yard passes, but just playing the right pass into midfield and knowing when to step up. No, he was good, and a rarity, but not the only one. Over the years, I've seen many. The thing is, we kind of lost, we British football kind of lost it a wee bit for about 10, 15, maybe even 20 years. Whereas the Italians and all that and the Spanish were sort of working in those sort of principles. The Brits are beginning to do it a wee bit better, and particularly the English.
Well, I think that's an interesting point, because even with the Irish hat on, I went to see Brighton last week, and Shane Duffy's actually in a bit of bother at Brighton at the moment, because it looks like Graham Potter is very much in that philosophy, and he's going for like 3 centre halves, and the feeling is that maybe he's looking for ones that are more comfortable stepping out and being a bit more comfortable in that situation. And that, I don't know, Pat, like the more old school centre half with old school characteristics, it's not that they're vulnerable, because there's always going to be a place for them, but it's a skill you sort of need to have to, I assume, to advance to a top 4, top 6 club, which we probably would have talked about Shane Duffy in those terms, you know, in terms of his importance for Ireland, but maybe he can't do it in that way. I don't know.
Not to the very, very top clubs, maybe, because you probably still have one kind of hard defender, you know, one that he's a decent player, but he's not the one who's going to play out for the back. And if you play with 2 at the back, as long as one of them can come out with the ball, that's probably going to be enough, as long as you're not, say, Man City. If it's a 3 in the back, you probably ought to be able to do it, because if you're the right or the left, you're going to be wide and you're going to get a lot of the ball. And if you're a central one, you've got to be able to play who dictates the play. So you're right, if it's a 3 at the back. Having said that, what's going on at Brighton absolutely confuses the life out of me. I done some analysis of them last week for them coming to the Chelsea game. You're trying to figure out A, how they were going to play, B, who was going to play, and C, who the hell was going to play where. Because they all play different positions all the time. It's the weirdest thing. And that is absolutely brilliant if everybody's comfortable with it. Problem is, just like you say with Duff, they're not, are they? They're not all comfortable. And he made a tactical change the weekend, Potter, against Chelsea. First half, they nailed it. They got their number 8, whose name escapes me just now, they got him to man-mark Jorginho. And honestly, Chelsea, although the better team, they were really quite stifled in that first half. He only took him off at half-time. Chelsea cruised it in the second half. It was the weirdest thing. He made this massive big tactical change. And if I had to choose one player in their team not to take off, he took off that player. I was at half-time. So absolutely stunned by it. I mean, he might have been injured, who knows, but I was amazed by it.
Meanwhile, yesterday, Newcastle, who play Manchester United on Sunday, had a terrible time of it. Newcastle players told not to come into training after Leicester's humiliation. Luke Edwards writing here. So Newcastle's players remained completely silent during what Luke Edwards writes was a brutal appraisal of their performance by manager Steve Bruce. He questioned their desire, their ability. An expletive-ridden outburst minutes after the final whistle. Bruce questioned the attitude of the team, accused them of trying to hide behind him since he was appointed as Rafa's replacement because they know he'll take flack for the results. According to one witness inside the dressing room, I'm sure Steve Bruce feels a whole lot better about the situation reading this. According to one witness inside the dressing room at the King Power Stadium, the extent of Bruce's anger left the entire team hanging their heads in shame, and tellingly there was not a murmur of discontent. They just stared at the floor, the source told Telegraph Sport. Bruce then told his players on the Sunday evening, don't come training on Monday, as he didn't want to see them so soon after the debacle at Leicester. And he told his staff that he could not promise he would not explode a second time if he saw them so soon, so he needed some time away from them. So, that sounds fun, to say the least. I mean, is it a good old-fashioned angry rant at full time telling them how terrible they've all been? Has that completely gone out of fashion here, or sometimes it's not the worst thing in the world?
Sometimes it harms. Definitely sometimes it harms. The thing is, it's rarer now than it was in times gone past, and that's a good thing. Don't go to that well too often. If you go to that well too often, people just get bored with it, and then you just start questioning the manager. I've seen it often happen. But now and again, throwing that one in there, it's a kind of slightly nuclear option, but I think he's tearing his hair out. He doesn't know where else to go with it. The thing is, I didn't see the entire game. I was like yourself. I was dipping in and out of that game. And to be fair, they're a man down. You know, they're away from home. It's against a really good Leicester team. And it was an important man down as well. When you look at the team that was left out there, there was a hell of a lot of players that weren't set up to be hard-working, you know, stoic, defensive-type players. You know, the changes weren't made to make it that way. Now, you know, Steve obviously doesn't want to make too many changes because, you know, they could get injuries, all that sort of stuff, and you have to question the quality he's got on the bench as well. But what was left there in that 10 men didn't strike me as a team that you would be wanting to play as a 10-man team to defend with their lives. So, you know, there's a bit here saying, right, the players are a bit miffed. They're a bit miffed for the players, and if they weren't working hard, you know, Steve's there, he's watched it, and he's top guy. But there's also a question to say, well, wait a minute, that didn't used to happen very often under Rafa because they were so structured and they were so organised. They weren't brilliant, but they were structured and they were organised. And if he's saying that they're hiding behind, you know, him getting abuse, that's basically saying none of you lot trust in me. And that's just kind of the wrong thing to say. You shouldn't say that. You need to keep as many of them as onside as possible, particularly if it's difficult times, and they're going to have some difficult times. I mean, I'll be at that game at the weekend when Manchester United play up at Newcastle, and I'll be intrigued to see how they react to it, those players, because there is two ways you can react to it. I mean, you know what those two ways are. One of them is just thumb your nose up at the manager. The idea, what you're saying there about just take a day off, that's sensible. That's all right, because they won't lose any fitness. There's no problem there. Having said that, it did look a bit sluggish, but they won't lose any match fitness. But they'll have a wee bit of time to think about it. And they'll come back, and he'll see when they come back. I don't think there's any big downside of them giving a day off to just think about it a bit.
Or else they all said, whoa, let's go to London, have a good night out and have a good time and do some shopping. And well, we'll see next week. So just the last one, Leicester. They're up to third now. Where are you on the Brendan Rodgers spectrum? He's a divisive enough manager, depending who you talk to, and it ranges from David Brent, got very lucky that he had Luis Suarez spearheading that brilliant season, and then went up to Celtic where, okay, you can say he did a great job, but frankly, you know, what was the opposition? Two people saying, this guy's obviously clearly a brilliant manager, did a great job at Swansea, almost won the league. Liverpool, they played brilliant football that season. Anyone can have a bad hangover. Did a great job at Celtic, and now he's doing it again at Leicester. This guy is a fantastic manager. Now, don't you dare tell me the truth is always somewhere in between, because that's the cop-out answer. I want to know where you are on this. Can I try another cop-out one? Yeah. We'll find out this season. And I think you do, in a way, don't you? This could be the referendum, this job on Rodgers. Right, no, I'll tell you what, I actually think he is a good coach, and I think he's a good technical coach as well. I think he does rub football people within the game up the wrong way. You know, some of the things that is constantly said, and it's definitely not from me, because anytime I've spoke to him, I've found him brilliant. But he said that he's quite pleased with himself. You know, he's not absolutely in love with himself. They tend to keep that for Jose, but you know, he's quite keen on himself and how he's seen. And if you're like that in a game and you're a bit precious about it, people can turn on you very, very quickly when things go wrong. And they've done that with him, and they thought he was getting a wee bit uppity, as it were, really early on. So that was the thoughts and the ideas that I was getting inside the game. And there was lots of, and I just couldn't get it, because you know, I'd spent a bit of time, I've met him quite a few times, and I just had never quite seen it. But then you watch him on camera sometimes, and particularly if there's a documentary, and you think, yeah, I'm not sure you should have done that, Brendan. That's not going to get down that well, mate. But none of that matters. It's all secondary. It's just pure results. So yeah, he did do a good job with Celtic. Not so great in Europe a lot of the time. I think he did a brilliant job with Liverpool. I thought he was really unlucky to lose his job there, personally. If he does get Leicester into the top four this season, I think you can call it and just say, no, guy's a really good manager. He's been given quite a few jobs and generally does really well with them. Pat, brilliant stuff. We'll have to leave it there. Thanks a million. Speak to you soon, guys. Cheers. Pat and Evan there. Giving us his thoughts on tonight and the weekend. Our football coverage is thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit dunlewy.net. Dan, you've been keeping a vague eye on Man United 1, Arsenal 1. Yeah, 3 minutes into 4 minutes of stoppage time. Rashford just had a free kick at the edge of the box. Stupid foul by David Luiz and McTominay. Great save by Leno. I wasn't sure if Rashford and Pogba were having a bit of a chat over who should take it. Or Pogba was certainly having words about something, but it was a pretty good effort, pretty good save. But yeah, we're petering out. We're not petering out. We're heading towards a 1-1. We are a little bit petering. Yeah, Manchester United have been applying some pressure without necessarily hammering the door down. Won a series of corners and so on, but not really sustained banging the door down. But that was a good save by Leno. John says if Dan took a role in the football family, he'd have no time to slag off the rugby family, which is a great point. Oh, we'd be co-tenants. That's true. What price are your tickets? Because I feel we've overpriced ours. Well, I mean that actually has already happened. You know, even that's even how ludicrous it was. Even our mates in the IRFU said that 15 grand flat rate. Let's go double that and not play that many big games in certain years. Yeah. That'll pay for it. 33,000 millionaires in the country. Yeah, 3,200 a year. Who are we playing this year? Gibraltar. That's the only competitive game we've got. Don't worry, that'll work. So I'm being told I have to wrap the show after this ad break solo because you're hightailing it to another media organisation.
That's not strictly true.
Whenever you see a John Delaney story, do you just ring your bank manager and say, we're going to throw in a conservatory?
Not really, no. I saw a John Delaney story at 11:15 on Saturday night and saw the next 4 to 5 hours disappear.
I can imagine.
The early hours of the morning.
I can imagine.
No.
Yeah. So you're on Virgin Media in what, an hour, half an hour?
That'll be grand, show.
An hour?
That'll be grand, yeah.
Very good.
Well, you know what it's like out there, you know?
Sure do.
Got to get changed.
Makeup, of course, all that jazz.
Yeah, you're the expert. Even Richard Cooper's even done you now. That's how big you've become. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, you got it all
Any
wrong.
comment on that? Are you happy with the impersonation?
It was completely wrong, but that's fair enough. Did I tell you about my award? No, we're off.
I thought it was pretty accurate.
Did you go?
Yeah, I did, yeah. And pause.
I mean, the thing with the pause is I just can't think what to say sometimes.
Let it go, Joe.
There's nothing dramatic going on.
Let it go.
Right, it's gone full time at Old Trafford. You have to go. We'll see you on television in 67 minutes, Dan.
Okay.
And I look forward to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right, we'll take a break.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
International football is more exciting than ever.
Remember that first time on the terraces, where it all began. The heroes, the villains, the highs, the lows. All the while, you were learning. Now use that knowledge on Football Index. Join tens of thousands of fans trading the world's top players. Football Index. The game changed. App available. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
I'll place a full history check on black.
I'll put genuine parts on red.
I'm betting roadside assistance on green.
Buying a used Audi from an unauthorized dealer can be a gamble. But at Audi Approved Plus, all our used models come with a comprehensive warranty, free roadside assistance and more. Don't leave it down to luck. Test drive yours at your local Audi dealer today. Terms and conditions apply. Visit audi.ie.
Celebrate our sale on October 2nd and 3rd with the Laser and Skin Clinic's amazing offers. Up to 50% off selected skin treatments, 30% off cool sculpting or #1 fat freezing treatment. Buy one get one half price on all injectable treatments, dermal fillers, vampire facelifts and more. This October 2nd and 3rd only. Buy now, use later. Book now at laserandskin.ie.
You told us you don't like cider that's too sweet. And you also told us you don't like cider that's too dry. Well, there's great news for you, because we don't make our delicious Appleman cider either of those things. So now all we have to do is ask you to try it. Simple. Here we go. Order an Appleman cider. Or making this ad was a complete waste of time. Appleman's, the joy in simple. Always drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.ie.
In Germany, we don't simply wash our cars, we Krensel them. We don't merely hose down our driveways, we Krensel them clean. Construction and farm machinery? You can be confident they get a Krenseling. Kranzel power washers are 100% German-made and engineered. Distributed in Ireland by CA Galvin Limited for over 35 years, Kranzel machines are renowned for their quality and are built to last. Kranzel have the power washer to suit your needs for any domestic, industrial or agricultural use. Visit kranzel.ie for your nearest dealer.
The United Kingdom is due to leave the European Union on the 31st of October. Brexit will mean changes for people living in Ireland, so it's important that you understand what these changes will mean for you. Many things will remain the same, but some of the changes may have a bigger impact on your daily life than others. It's important that you make sure you are as prepared as possible. Find out what you need to know at gov.ie/Brexit, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
It was the week when a 16-year-old girl rocked the world. In this week's Sunday Independent, Brendan O'Connor on the criticism of Greta Thunberg and Niamh Horn on why climate change is a good thing. In Living, Pippa O'Connor-Allman on coping with the death of her mother. In Life,